Alarm bells are ringing across Washington as the U.S. military's operations in the Iran conflict have failed to achieve their objectives, and now even elements within the American intelligence community appear to be conceding that their covert efforts have fallen short of expectations. Amid Iran's recent strikes on targets in Kuwait and Bahrain, a significant revelation has emerged. The CIA has curtailed or stopped sharing critical intelligence on Iran with key partners, a move that could reshape regional coordination and undermine allied responses. Reports indicate the CIA has halted sharing some Iran-related intelligence even as President Trump escalates rhetoric and threats toward figures like Mujtaba, signaling a fraught intersection of political pressure and operational retrenchment within U.S. agencies. Inside the White House, officials describe a chaotic situation as Iran drags out negotiations and keeps Washington uncertain about the prospects for a stable peace deal, a dynamic that has strained decision-making and strategic planning at the highest levels. With signs that the war could be restarting, President Trump finds himself increasingly isolated as U.S. military commanders and intelligence services scale back or abandon certain initiatives, leaving him with fewer tools and partners to execute his preferred course of action. Disputes have reportedly arisen between the Central Intelligence Agency and the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, a bureaucratic rift that officials say has undermined routine intelligence collaboration and raised questions about information flow across the national security apparatus. The CIA has stopped contributing to certain intelligence assessments, including those related to the Iran war, a decision that sources say has created critical gaps in shared analysis used to inform policy and military planning. This development was reported by the Reuters news agency on June 2 and was subsequently highlighted by Iran International, which detailed how the halting cooperation has affected interagency deliberations and regional situational awareness. At the center of the clash is a task force established in April 2025 by then Director of National Intelligence Chief Tulsi Gabbard, an initiative intended to accelerate analysis but which has since become a flashpoint for accusations and counterclaims between intelligence bodies. The CIA has reportedly contended that Gabbard's Directors Initiatives Group acted recklessly, alleging that its procedures and decisions bypassed established safeguards and professional norms within the intelligence community. Agency officials further allege the group circumvented traditional intelligence sharing and declassification protocols, raising concerns that classified material may have been handled or disseminated in ways that exposed sensitive sources or damaged long-standing partnerships. Officials within the Office of the Director of National Intelligence counter that the CIA blocked the group's access to certain intelligence, a move described in reports as an escalation that deepened mistrust and impeded the production of coordinated assessments. The revelation about the interagency clash emerged amid fresh Iranian strikes on targets in Kuwait and Bahrain and a renewed cycle of U.S. retaliatory strikes, underscoring how internal U.S. disputes are unfolding against a volatile regional backdrop. In the aftermath of recent U.S. strikes on Qeshm Island, a close Arab partner aligned with President Trump appears to be shouldering substantial political and security costs, a dynamic that underscores how targeted military actions can produce significant regional fallout and strain long-standing alliances. Observers say Iranian strikes have reverberated across Kuwait, producing visible damage at the international airport and forcing aviation authorities to halt flights temporarily, a disruption that has immediate effects on travel, commerce, and the daily lives of thousands of passengers. Reports indicate multiple people were injured at Kuwait International Airport amid a fresh exchange of fire between Iranian and U.S. forces, an escalation that transformed a civilian transit hub into a scene of chaos and human suffering, while raising urgent questions about the protection of non-combatants. Kuwait's defense ministry has stated that sections of the airport building were severely damaged during the recent attacks, a confirmation that points to substantial infrastructure harm, an extended repair timeline, and a likely period of heightened security and investigation at the site. Fresh fears of regional escalation emerged after Iran reportedly launched missiles toward U.S.-linked targets in the Gulf. Iran's Revolutionary Guards claimed responsibility for what they described as precise strikes against American military positions. Iran said the operation was retaliation for reported American military action targeting Qeshm Island. The Revolutionary Guards warned that any new attack would be met with a far stronger response. Tehran declared that future confrontations would carry consequences for any force targeting Iranian territory. Press TV's report said, and I quote, Iran's IRGC announced that it struck a U.S. military airbase and the U.S. Fifth Fleet's headquarters with missiles and drones in retaliation for American attacks. The IRGC said a U.S. warplane first hit an Iranian tanker near the Strait of Hormuz late last night, causing engine room damage. In response, the IRGC targeted a U.S.-affiliated vessel named Panaya with naval missiles. After a subsequent U.S. strike on an IRGC telecom tower on Qeshm Island, The IRGC Aerospace Force attacked a U.S. air and helicopter base in a regional country as well as the 5th Fleet's command center. The IRGC warned that any violation of security in the Strait of Hormuz would bring a harsh price for the U.S. military, unquote. Authorities in Bahrain activated warning sirens and advised residents to move to safe locations. American forces claimed they successfully engaged several incoming missiles and drones during the attack. CENTCOM statement read, and I quote, U.S. forces successfully defeated multiple Iranian ballistic missiles and drones, and conducted self-defense strikes on Qeshm Island in response to attempted attacks by Iran across the Middle East, June 2nd. Iran launched several ballistic missiles toward regional neighbors. However, all failed to hit their intended targets. 2 Iranian missiles fired at Kuwait fell short or broke apart en route, and 3 missiles launched at Bahrain were immediately intercepted by U.S. and Bahrain air defense forces. Moments earlier, U.S. Central Command, CENTCOM, forces shot down 3 one-way attack drones launched by Iran toward civilian mariners that were rightfully transiting regional waters. American forces also conducted self-defense strikes on an Iranian military ground control station on Qeshm Island. No U.S. personnel were harmed. CENTCOM forces remain vigilant and ready to defend against unwarranted Iranian aggression during the ongoing ceasefire, unquote. According to U.S. officials, the missiles either malfunctioned or were intercepted before impact. CENTCOM said it conducted defensive strikes against an Iranian control facility linked to the operation. Iranian media reported explosions near Qeshm as tensions intensified across the Gulf region. The U.S. military claimed additional Iranian drones targeting maritime traffic were intercepted. The latest exchange of fire has raised fresh doubts about the durability of the current ceasefire. Meanwhile, Iran continues to delay its formal response to the United States' recent peace deal proposal, a standoff that has prolonged uncertainty and complicated diplomatic and military planning across the region. Iran is still reviewing the final text of a possible memorandum of understanding with the United States and has not yet sent a response, indicating deliberation or internal consultations before committing to terms. Mehr News reported Iran's position on June 2nd, according to Iran International, citing unnamed officials and providing details that suggest Tehran is weighing political, security, and legal implications before responding publicly. The source told Mehr News, and I quote, America's record of breaking commitments and historical mistrust have led Iran to take a very strict approach to the issue, unquote. Amid suspense, the US president said Hezbollah and Israel had agreed to halt hostilities, describing a temporary pause meant to prevent further escalation while de-escalation measures were implemented. The reported de-escalation came after the Israeli Prime Minister ordered strikes on Beirut on June 1st, a decision that had sharply raised regional tensions and prompted urgent diplomatic efforts. Israel warned it would resume attacks if Hezbollah continued strikes on Israeli cities, framing the pause as conditional and dependent on Hezbollah's behavior on the battlefield. Israeli officials also said military operations in southern Lebanon would continue as planned, indicating that the pause applied to cross-border exchanges while other operational objectives remained active. Details of the apparent pause were reported by Al Jazeera on June 2nd, citing sources close to the developments and diplomatic contacts involved in negotiating the halt. Meanwhile, Iran issued a stark warning to Israel against attacking Lebanon's capital, threatening severe consequences if such an assault went ahead. Even as Trump called for restraint, Iran raised the stakes with a direct warning aimed at Israel. The warning was addressed to residents of northern Israel as concerns grew over possible regional escalation. Iran's Qatar Al-Anbiya headquarters warned Israelis to leave northern areas if Beirut is targeted by Israeli strikes. Ali Abdullahi said, and I quote, "Given Israel's repeated violations of the ceasefire, if this threat is carried out, we warn residents of northern areas and military settlements in Israel to leave the area if they do not want to be harmed," unquote. The warning came after Israeli officials threatened military action against Beirut and its southern suburbs. Iran cautioned that any expansion of Israeli operations in Lebanon could lead to a much wider conflict. Reports suggest Trump and Netanyahu held a tense phone conversation as the Lebanon crisis continued to worsen. Trump reportedly urged restraint, warning that a strike on Beirut could undermine ongoing diplomatic efforts. Donald Trump said, and I quote, "I had a conversation with Bibi Netanyahu today, asking him not to go into a major raid of Beirut, Lebanon. He turned his troops around. Thank you, BB. I also had a conversation with representatives of the leaders of Hezbollah, and they agreed to stop shooting at Israel and its soldiers. Likewise, Israel agreed to stop shooting at them. Let's see how long that lasts. Hopefully it will be for eternity." Unquote. According to Axios, the discussion became heated as the two leaders clashed over Israel's approach to Lebanon. Axios reported that Trump sharply criticized Netanyahu and accused him of acting recklessly during the call. According to Axios, Donald Trump said, and I quote, "You're crazy. You'd be in prison if it weren't for me. I'm saving your Everybody hates you now. Everybody hates Israel because of this." Reports further claim that Trump stepped in to prevent a planned Israeli strike on Beirut. Trump later said both Israel and Hezbollah had agreed to stop firing and de-escalate tensions. But renewed exchanges of fire soon cast doubt on how long any ceasefire arrangement might last.